Sir, these front seats are reserved for the executive passengers. I'll need you to move to the back. I'm comfortable here.
This seat works well for me.
The primary passenger is already here.
I'm Marcus Chen. I'm the CEO.
And I own this plane. The primary passenger will be boarding shortly. You can't sit there.
Listen to this carefully. What I'm about to tell you happened last Tuesday at 30,000 feet, and by the time that private jet touched down, 12 people had lost their jobs, a lawsuit had been filed, and one woman's entire world had shattered in the span of 10 minutes. But we need to rewind, because nobody on that plane, not the crew, not the passengers, and especially not that flight attendant, had any idea who they were really dealing with. Her name was Nicole Winters, and she was about to learn the most expensive lesson of her life. Marcus Chen stepped onto the tarmac at LAX, his worn leather messenger bag slung over his shoulder. At first glance, you'd never guess. The simple black t-shirt, the comfortable jeans, the sneakers that had seen better days. He looked like someone who'd scraped together miles for an upgrade, not someone boarding a private jet. But here's what most people didn't notice: the way he moved. Confident, unhurried, like someone who'd walked across 1,000 tarmacs and didn't need to prove anything to anyone. Mr. Chen, the ground crew coordinator approached, tablet in hand. Your aircraft is ready. Gate 3. Thank you. Marcus smiled. Simple. Genuine. The kind of smile that made people feel seen. He'd been doing this for 15 years. Building his company from a college dorm room to a tech empire worth $2.3 billion. And he'd learned something crucial along the way. The people who feel the need to broadcast their importance usually have the least of it. So Marcus kept it simple. Flew commercial when he could. Drove his own car. Remembered people's names. But today was different. Today was the deal that would change everything. A merger with Quantum Industries that would revolutionize AI technology and employ 50,000 people across 12 countries. Today required the company jet. As he walked toward Gate 3, his phone buzzed. A text from his COO, David Martinez. Flight crew confirmed. Pilots briefed. See you in New York in 6 hours. Make history, boss. Marcus smiled. History. That's exactly what this was. He approached the gleaming Gulfstream G650, its white exterior catching the California sun. The door was open, stairs extended. Professional. Perfect. Good afternoon. A voice called from the top of the stairs. Bright. Enthusiastic. A young flight attendant appeared, blonde, impeccably dressed in the Navy uniform, smile practiced and professional. Her name tag read, Nicole Winters. Welcome aboard. Nicole's smile was wide as Marcus climbed the stairs. You must be part of the Chen Tech Group? Something like that. Marcus stepped into the cabin. And this is where it started to shift. The interior was stunning. Cream leather seats. Mahogany trim. State-of-the-art entertainment systems. This was Chen Tech's flagship aircraft, and every detail reflected that. But Nicole's expression changed the moment Marcus fully entered. Just a flicker. A micro-expression that lasted maybe half a second. Confusion. Then assessment. Then something else. I see. Her voice shifted. Still professional, but cooler now. And you're traveling to New York. That's right. Marcus moved toward his usual seat, the single chair near the front window, the one with the best workspace setup. Actually, Nicole stepped forward, her hand gesturing toward the back of the plane. The Chen Tech passengers typically sit in the conference area. Toward the rear. More space for your group. Marcus paused. Looked at her. Really looked at her. She thought he was staff. Or maybe a guest of a guest. Someone who needed to be managed. Directed. He'd seen this expression 1,000 times. In boardrooms. In restaurants. In hotel lobbies. The moment when someone decided he didn't belong in the space he occupied. I'm comfortable here, Marcus said gently. But thank you. Sir, Nicole's professionalism was cracking, just slightly. I need to keep these front seats available for the executive passengers. Company policy. I understand policies. Marcus set his bag down, started pulling out his laptop. This seat works well for me. Nicole's jaw tightened. She glanced toward the cockpit, then back at Marcus. Making a calculation. Sir, I'm going to need you to move to the designated area. The primary passenger will be boarding shortly, and the primary passenger is already here. The voice came from the galley. Sharp, female, authoritative. Jennifer Park emerged, Chan Tech's chief legal officer, a woman whose courtroom presence had made Fortune 500 CEOs weep. She'd boarded through the crew entrance, as she sometimes did, preferring to review documents during the pre-flight setup. Jennifer. Marcus nodded. Ready for New York? Always. Jennifer's eyes flicked to Nicole, taking in the situation in an instant. Is there a problem? No problem. Nicole's voice brightened artificially. I was just directing your companion to the appropriate seating area. My companion? Jennifer's eyebrow raised. You mean Marcus Chen? The CEO of Chen Tech? The man who owns this plane. The color drained from Nicole's face. Not all at once. That's not how these moments work. It started at her neck, creeping upward, leaving her skin pale against her navy collar. What? Marcus Chen. Jennifer enunciated each syllable clearly. Chief Executive Officer. Founder. The person whose name is on your paycheck. Marcus held up a hand. Jennifer, it's fine. Honest mistake. But it wasn't fine. And they all knew it. Because here's the thing about assumptions. They reveal what people truly think when they believe no one important is watching. Nicole's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Mr. Chen, I am so sorry I thought you weren't. The words tumbled out, disjointed, panic rising. It's okay. Marcus meant it. I know I don't exactly look like the typical CEO. Let's just have a good flight. He settled into his seat. Professional. Gracious. Moving on. Jennifer shot him a look that said we'll talk about this later before heading to the conference area to set up her files. Nicole stood frozen for another moment, her face cycling through emotions. Embarrassment, anger, fear, something else Marcus couldn't quite identify. Then she turned sharply and disappeared into the galley. Marcus opened his laptop, pulled up the merger documents. Let it go. Because he'd learned long ago, you can't control what people assume about you. You can only control how you respond. 10 minutes later, the rest of the team began boarding. David Martinez, COO, built like a linebacker, mind like a chess grandmaster. Sarah Kim, CFO, the woman who'd turned Chan Tech's financials into poetry. James Wu, CTO, the coding genius who designed their flagship AI platform. And finally, Alex Johnson, VP of Diversity and Inclusion, and the person who transformed Chan Tech's culture into something special. They greeted Marcus with the casual familiarity of people who'd been in the trenches together. Fist bumps. Inside jokes. The easy rapport of a team that genuinely liked each other. Nicole watched from the galley entrance. Her eyes tracked every interaction, every laugh, every casual touch on Marcus's shoulder. And something shifted in her expression again. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced, voice bright and artificial, we'll be taking off shortly. Can I get anyone drinks before departure? The team called out orders. Sparkling water, coffee, juice. And for you, sir? Nicole addressed Marcus, the sir landing just a fraction too hard. Just water, please. Thank you, Nicole. She nodded curtly and retreated. Sarah leaned toward Marcus. You okay? She seems. It's fine, Marcus said quietly. Just a misunderstanding earlier. But it wasn't fine. Because as the plane taxied toward the runway, as Marcus focused on the merger documents that would change thousands of lives, Nicole was in the galley making a phone call. Jessica? It's Nicole. Yeah, I'm on the Chan Tech flight. No, you won't believe this. Remember how they're always going on about diversity and inclusion and all that corporate BS? Well, guess who's on this plane right now? Jennifer, passing by to use the restroom, caught the tail end of the conversation. Stopped. Listened. I know. It's so obvious what's happening. They literally have everyone who checks a diversity box. It's like flying affirmative action airlines. Jennifer's eyes narrowed. She stepped into the galley entrance. Excuse me. Nicole spun, phone clutched to her chest. I was just, this is a private conversation. On company time. On a company plane. while you're supposed to be doing your job. Jennifer's voice could have cut steel. I suggest you hang up and get back to work. Nicole's face flushed red. I'm on my federally mandated break. Your break ended 3 minutes ago when you asked if anyone wanted drinks. Jennifer smiled, but there was zero warmth in it. Now hang up the phone. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then Nicole muttered something into the phone and ended the call. Is there a problem? Nicole's voice had shifted. Defensive. Hostile. Not yet, Jennifer said coolly. Let's keep it that way. She returned to the conference area where Marcus was deep in conversation with James about the AI integration specs. Marcus, Jennifer said quietly, we might have a situation. But before she could explain, the captain's voice came through the intercom. Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff. Nicole strapped herself into the jump seat, her eyes fixed on the back of Marcus's head. Whatever was happening in her mind, it was building. The flight hit cruising altitude. The seatbelt sign dinged off. The team unbuckled and spread out, Sarah and David in the conference area, James testing some new software on his laptop, Alex reviewing diversity metrics for the post-merger integration. Marcus stood, stretched, headed toward the galley for that water Nicole had never brought. She was there, restocking the refreshment cart, her movements sharp and aggressive. Nicole? Could I grab that water when you have a moment? She didn't look up. The call button is for service requests. Marcus blinked. I'm right here. I thought it might be easier. Company protocol says passengers should use the call button for service. She slammed a cabinet door. Okay. Marcus kept his voice even. I'll just grab it myself if you point me to. Passengers aren't allowed in the galley. Nicole finally looked at him, and her eyes were cold. Safety regulations. This wasn't about water anymore. Nicole. Marcus kept his tone gentle. Did I do something to upset you? Why would I be upset? Her laugh was sharp. I'm just doing my job. Following the rules. Making sure everyone gets treated equally. The emphasis on that last word hung in the air like smoke. I appreciate that, Marcus said carefully. Equal treatment is important. Is it? Nicole crossed her arms. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like some people get special treatment. Some people get handed everything. Some people get to be CEO not because they earned it, but because companies need to check boxes. There it was. Out in the open now. Marcus felt his chest tighten. He'd heard variations of this his entire career. The assumption that his success was a gift, not a result of 15-hour days and sleeping in his office and sacrificing relationships and health and everything else. I see, Marcus said quietly. Do you? Nicole leaned against the counter. Do you know what it's like to watch people get opportunities just because of what they look like? To watch actually qualified people get passed over because someone needs to fill a quota. Actually, Marcus said, his voice still calm but something harder underneath, I do know what that's like. I've watched it happen my entire life. Just usually in the opposite direction. Nicole's face twisted. Of course you'd say that. Play the victim card. That's what people like you do. Nicole. The voice came from behind Marcus. Alex had appeared, her presence somehow making the galley feel smaller. I think, Alex said carefully, that this conversation needs to end. Now. I'm allowed to have conversations with passengers, Nicole started. Not ones that violate about 6 different company policies and FAA regulations regarding discrimination. Alex's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. I suggest you go to the back of the plane and cool off. Nicole's eyes bounced between them. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just being honest. Everyone's thinking it, I'm just saying it. You're relieved of duty for the remainder of this flight, Alex said. Go sit in the crew rest area. Now. You can't. Actually, as VP of Diversity and Inclusion and the ranking officer on this flight after the pilot, I absolutely can. Move. Nicole's face had gone from red to purple. Her hands were shaking. And then she made the worst decision of her life. She looked directly at Marcus, her lip curling, and said, "This is exactly what I'm talking about. You people always playing the victim, always running to." The slap happened so fast, Marcus almost didn't register it. One moment Nicole was talking. The next, her hand had connected with his face, the crack echoing through the small galley space. The plane seemed to freeze. Marcus's cheek burned. His eyes watered from the impact. His hand came up automatically to touch his face. Alex's mouth fell open. "Did you just—" "He was threatening me." Nicole's voice pitched high, hysterical. "You all saw it. He got in my face, he was intimidating me, I felt threatened." "There are cameras in this galley," Alex said, her voice deadly quiet. 3 of them. Recording everything. Audio and video. Nicole's face changed again. The anger drained away, replaced by something that looked like dawning horror. You don't understand what it's like, having them take over everything, having to pretend like they deserve." "Stop talking." This came from Jennifer, who'd appeared with David and Sarah behind her. "Nicole Winters, as Chief Legal Officer of Chen Tech, I'm informing you that you are terminated effective immediately. You will be escorted to the crew area where you will remain for the duration of this flight. Upon landing, you will be met by security and escorted from company property. You will receive termination paperwork within 24 hours. You have the right to legal representation. Any questions?" Nicole's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Cameras," Jennifer continued, pulling out her phone, "showing assault on a company CEO. Recording showing discriminatory language and hostile work environment creation. Witness testimony from 5 company officers. Would you like to keep talking, or would you like to exercise your right to remain silent?" I didn't mean. I just—" Nicole's eyes filled with tears. "I have a family. I need this job. I was just having a bad day, I didn't—" "You assaulted someone," David said, his voice rumbling with barely contained anger. "On a private aircraft. That's a federal crime." No, Nicole's voice broke. "Please, I'm sorry, I'll apologize, I'll do whatever." Marcus had been silent through all of this, his hand still on his cheek. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "Why?" Nicole looked at him, tears streaming now. "Why?" Marcus repeated. "What did I ever do to you? I didn't know you before today. We'd never met. So why?" "Because," Nicole's voice cracked, "because it's not fair. I worked so hard. I studied, I trained, I did everything right. And people like you just get handed things. You get to be CEO and fly private jets and act like you earned it when everyone knows it's just diversity hiring and political correctness and—" "People like me." Marcus nodded slowly. "You mean people who grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment with a single mom working 3 jobs? People who coded their first program on a library computer because they couldn't afford one? People who got rejected from venture capital meetings 47 times before someone even looked at their business plan? People who built their company with maxed-out credit cards and hope? Those people." Nicole said nothing. "I bought my first suit at Goodwill," Marcus continued, his voice still quiet but carrying through the cabin. "For my first investor meeting. It was too big. The pants were too long. But it was $12, and that's what I could afford. I wore it to every meeting for 2 years until I finally made enough money to buy a second one. You know what those investors saw when they looked at me?" Silence. "They saw exactly what you saw today. Someone who didn't belong. Someone who must have gotten there through luck or charity or affirmative action. Never someone who'd earned it." Marcus lowered his hand from his face. "So when you ask what's not fair? I agree. It's not fair. It's never been fair. But not in the way you think. Marcus, Jennifer said gently, you don't have to. She hit me, Marcus said simply, on my own plane, while I was trying to get a glass of water, because she decided who I was before I opened my mouth. So yeah, I think I do have to. He looked directly at Nicole. You're fired. That part isn't changing. But here's what else is going to happen. Marcus pulled out his phone, tapped the screen a few times, set it on speaker. The ringtone echoed through the cabin. Marcus, a warm voice answered. You're early. Plane okay? Hey, Mom. Yeah, we're fine. But I need you to do something for me. Eleanor Chen, Executive Vice President of Human Resources and Operations, and the woman who'd literally built Chen Tech's infrastructure from the ground up while raising Marcus alone, had a gift for reading her son's tone. What happened? We had an incident with a flight crew member. Nicole Winters. I need you to pull her employment file. All of it. Performance reviews, hiring records, everything. A pause. Then, give me 2 minutes. The cabin was silent except for the jet engine's steady hum. Nicole had collapsed into one of the jump seats, her face in her hands. Got it, Eleanor's voice came back. Nicole Winters, hired 8 months ago. Flight attendant. Stationed primarily on the company aircraft. Background check clear, references good, initial performance reviews. Oh. What? She's been written up twice in the last 3 months. Once for refusing to serve a passenger she deemed inappropriately dressed for a private flight. Once for making comments to crew members about passenger backgrounds. Both times she claimed she was upholding company standards. Marcus closed his eyes. Who approved her continued employment after those write-ups? Let me see. Write-ups went to... Oh no. Who, Mom? Gerald Hutchinson, VP of Flight Operations. The name landed like a bomb. Gerald Hutchinson. The man Marcus had inherited when Chen Tech acquired Stellar Aviation Services 2 years ago. The man who'd been managing their fleet and crew. The man who kept promising to improve protocols but somehow never quite got around to it. Mom, I need you to pull every flight attendant he's hired in the last 2 years. Every write-up he's received. Every complaint filed. Marcus, that's going to take. I'll wait. He leaned against the galley counter. Alex handed him an ice pack for his face. Sarah was already on her laptop, pulling up personnel files. David had moved to block Nicole from leaving, though she didn't seem capable of moving anyway. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Oh my God, Eleanor's voice came back. Marcus, you need to see this. I'm sending files to your secure email right now. But, sweetheart, this is bad. Marcus opened his laptop, started scrolling through the documents his mother was sending. And with each page, his expression grew harder. 14 flight attendants hired by Hutchinson in 2 years. 11 of them white women between ages 25 to 32. Background checks that somehow missed multiple red flags. Social media posts that would have disqualified candidates at any other company. Private Facebook groups where Chen Tech passengers were mocked, categorized, discussed. This one, Eleanor's voice shook, posted a photo of David Martinez with the caption, "Guess which DI hire gets the champagne today." This one made a TikTok about flying the Diversity Express. This one, Marcus, this one has a LinkedIn post complaining about how tech companies are ruining aviation standards by prioritizing politics over professionalism. Jennifer had moved to read over Marcus's shoulder. Her face had gone stone cold. How did this happen? She asked quietly. We have systems, protocols, multiple levels of review. Hutchinson's been overriding them, Eleanor said. He has authority to fast-track hires for urgent operational needs. Looks like he's been using it to bypass HR screening. He's been building a crew, Alex said slowly, of people who share his views. People who'd look the other way when passengers get treated differently based on whether they look like they belong on a private jet, Marcus finished. He scrolled to the next document. Stopped. What is this? Complaint filed 6 months ago, Eleanor said. By Margaret Anderson. You remember her? The COO of Anderson Pharmaceuticals. She filed a formal complaint that a flight attendant made her teenage son uncomfortable with comments about his scholarship to Stanford. Implied he'd only gotten in because of quotas. I never saw this complaint, Jennifer said sharply. Because Hutchinson marked it as resolved through counseling and apology. Closed it out. Never escalated it. Marcus's jaw tightened. How many complaints did he close out? 17. In 2 years. The number hung in the air. Get him on the phone, Marcus said quietly. Now. Marcus, it's 2 p.m. He's probably. I don't care if he's in a meeting with God. Get him on the phone. Another minute passed. Then the phone rang. Eleanor. Gerald Hutchinson's voice was smooth, practiced. What can I do for you? I'm actually in the middle of... You're on speakerphone with Marcus Chen, Jennifer Park, and the senior executive team, Eleanor said. We're at 35,000 feet on company aircraft November 7-3 Hotel. A pause. Oh, okay. Is there a situation? Tell me about Nicole Winters, Marcus said. Another pause, longer this time. Nicole? She's one of our flight attendants. Is there a problem? She assaulted me about 20 minutes ago. Silence. Complete silence. Then, I'm sorry, what? Slapped me. In the galley. After making multiple discriminatory comments about myself and my team. After claiming we only got our positions because of diversity initiatives. After creating a hostile environment. On my plane. Marcus, I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding. We have it on camera, Jennifer cut in. 3 angles. Audio and video. Crystal clear. Look, Nicole's been under a lot of stress. She's dealing with some personal issues. I'm sure if we just... Why? Marcus interrupted, his voice dangerously quiet. Did you hire her after she was fired from her previous airline job for making a passenger file a discrimination complaint? The silence that followed told them everything. You? How did you? It was in her background check, Gerald. The one you overrode. The one where you wrote, previous termination was result of misunderstanding and oversensitivity on passengers' part. Candidate shows strong potential and traditional service values. You remember writing that? Those background checks are just guidelines. We have to look at the whole person. The whole person, Marcus said, who posted on Facebook 3 days before you hired her that she was tired of woke culture ruining the service industry. The whole person who belonged to a Facebook group called Real Americans in Aviation. The whole person who you hired specifically because she shared your views. That's not... you can't prove. Gerald, Jennifer's voice could have frozen nitrogen. You're done. Consider yourself terminated effective immediately. Your access to all Chen tech systems has been revoked. Security will escort you from the building when you return. Your personal effects will be shipped to your home. You'll receive your final paycheck minus legal fees we'll be assessing for the liability you've created. And just so we're clear, you'll be named in every lawsuit that comes out of this situation. Personally, we're piercing the corporate veil on this one. You can't. I have a contract. I have rights. You have the right to an attorney, Jennifer said. I suggest you call one. This conversation is over. She ended the call. The cabin erupted. Holy shit, David breathed. 17 complaints, Sarah said, still scrolling through files. 17 people complained and nothing happened. It's bigger than that, Alex said, her fingers flying over her keyboard. Look at this. He's been corresponding with other VPs in the aviation division, sharing concerns about company culture changes. Building a coalition of old guard employees who feel threatened by diversity initiatives, Marcus finished. How many? I'm counting 8 VPs or directors who he's had regular advisory meetings with. All scheduled off the main calendar. All in person. No digital trail except... Except what? Except expense reports, Alex said grimly. Regular lunches, dinners, golf outings. All charged to team building and morale initiatives. Marcus stood up, paced the narrow galley space. His cheek still throbbed where Nicole had hit him. Jennifer, what's our legal exposure here? Massive. Potentially 8 figures if we get hit with a class action from every passenger who's flown with discriminatory treatment. Maybe 9 figures when you add in the assault charge. That's federal. Then there's the hostile work environment claims from any affected employees. Regulatory violations with the FAA if any safety protocols were compromised by biased personnel decisions. Compromised, David said slowly. You think he might have? I think, Jennifer said carefully, that when someone prioritizes hiring people based on shared prejudices rather than qualifications, everything else they do becomes suspect, including safety certification and training compliance. Marcus stopped pacing. Mom, I need you to ground the entire private fleet. Effective immediately. Marcus, that's every plane, every crew member. Full safety audit. Full personnel review. I don't care if it costs us millions. Ground them. Okay, but son, we have executives in the air right now. They can land at the nearest airport and take commercial. Nobody flies on a Chen Tech aircraft until we verified every single person and every single system. I will not have another situation like this. Ever. He turned to Nicole, who'd been sitting silently through the entire exchange. You slapped me because you thought I didn't deserve to be here. Because you assumed I was a diversity hire who hadn't earned my position. Want to know something interesting? She looked up, face streaked with tears. My mother came to this country with $200 and a dream. She worked as a maid, then a waitress, then a hotel manager. She put herself through business school at night. By the time I was 10, she was running operations for a regional airline. By the time I was 20, she was one of the most respected operations executives in the industry. You know what she taught me? Silence. She taught me that respect isn't about what you look like or where you came from. It's about how you treat people when you think nobody important is watching. Marcus leaned against the counter. You failed that test today. Not because you didn't recognize me. That was an honest mistake. You failed because once you decided I was beneath you, you felt entitled to treat me like I was. I'm sorry, Nicole whispered. I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please. You're still fired, Marcus said. That's not changing. But here's what else is going to happen. When we land, you're going to meet with our legal team. You're going to give a full statement about everything Gerald Hutchinson said to you. Every conversation, every instruction, every comment he made that made you think this behavior was acceptable. Why would I do that? Because, Jennifer said, if you cooperate fully, we won't press federal assault charges. You'll lose your job, but you won't go to prison. You'll face civil suits from Mr. Chen, but we'll negotiate settlements you can actually pay. You'll have a chance to rebuild your life. If you don't cooperate. She shrugged. Federal assault charge carries 5 years. Plus civil suits that will bankrupt you. Plus your name attached to every news story about systemic discrimination in corporate aviation. Your choice. Nicole's hands shook. I'll cooperate. I'll tell you everything. Please, just... I can't go to prison. My daughter. You have a daughter? Alex asked quietly. Nicole nodded miserably. She's 7. She thinks I'm a good person. Then be one, Marcus said. Help us fix this. Help us make sure it never happens to anyone else. The plane landed at Teterboro Airport at 6:47 p.m. Eastern. Security was waiting. So was a CNN news van. How did they? David started. I called them, Alex said calmly. While we were in the air. Gave them the basics. They'll want a statement. Marcus looked at her. You're sure about this? Going public. Marcus, this isn't just about one flight attendant. This is about systemic discrimination in corporate aviation. About executives building hostile environments. About the way people get judged the second they walk into a space. This story. She gestured toward the news van. This story needs to be told. The plane door opened. Nicole was escorted out first, flanked by security, her face hidden behind her hands as camera flashes erupted. Then Marcus emerged, and the flash intensity doubled. Mr. Chen, can you comment on? Mr. Chen, is it true you were assaulted? Mr. Chen, what's your response to? He held up a hand. The crowd quieted. I'll make one statement. No questions after. The cameras focused. The reporters held up their phones. Today, I was assaulted on my company's private aircraft by a flight attendant who decided I didn't belong there based on how I looked. She's been terminated. But here's what you need to understand. She's not the real story. The real story is the VP who hired her knowing she'd been fired for discrimination. The VP who built a network of employees who shared his prejudices. The VP who buried 17 complaints in 2 years. That's the story. Mr. Chen, are you saying Chen Tech has a discrimination problem? I'm saying we had executives who created one. And as of today, they're gone. We've grounded our entire private fleet for review. We're conducting a full investigation. We're implementing new protocols. And we're committing $50 million to diversity and inclusion training across every division of this company. Not because it's good PR. Because it's necessary. What about the flight attendant? Marcus paused. She made a terrible choice today. She'll face consequences. But she was also hired into a toxic system that reinforced her worst instincts. I'm angry about what she did. I'm furious about what enabled her to do it. There's a difference. Will you press charges? That depends on her cooperation with our investigation. Next question. Actually, no. I said one statement. That's it. Thank you. He walked through the crowd, his team surrounding him, toward the waiting cars. Behind them, Nicole was being loaded into a different vehicle, still sobbing, still hiding her face. In the car, Marcus finally allowed himself to breathe. You okay? Jennifer asked quietly. My face hurts. My pride hurts. And I'm realizing that a problem I thought we'd solved years ago was just hiding better. He leaned his head back. But yeah, I'm okay. His phone started ringing immediately. Texts flooded in. One made him smile despite everything. Saw the news. Proud of you. Love, Mom. Another made him pause. Marcus, it's Margaret Anderson. Just heard what happened. Thank you for taking this seriously. My son never forgot what that flight attendant said to him. Maybe now he'll see that someone actually cared. Jennifer, Marcus said slowly, get Margaret Anderson on the phone. And every other person who filed a complaint that Hutchinson buried. We're settling with all of them. Full compensation. Public apology. Whatever they want. That's going to cost. I don't care. They deserve to be heard. They deserve to be believed. They deserved action. They're getting it now. The car pulled up to Chantech's New York headquarters. Another crowd of reporters waited. Marcus looked at his team. Ready. Ready, they said in unison. They walked in together. And the work began. Over the next 72 hours, the story exploded. Hashtag fired for flying trended on Twitter for 3 days. Gerald Hutchinson gave one disastrous interview where he claimed he was being persecuted for traditional values, which only made things worse. 6 of the 8 VPs he'd been coordinating with resigned before they could be fired. The remaining 2 denied everything until security footage of their advisory meetings leaked, showing them literally laughing about passenger complaints. Nicole Winters gave a full statement to Chantech's legal team, then to federal investigators. She named names, provided emails, corroborated everything. In exchange, Marcus agreed not to press federal charges, though he did file a civil suit that would likely cost her every penny she had. She'll rebuild, Jennifer told him. She's young enough. She can learn. Maybe this is her wake-up call. Maybe, Marcus said. Or maybe she'll just get better at hiding it. But that's not my responsibility. My responsibility is making sure it doesn't happen here again. The safety audit took 2 weeks. They found issues. Not many, but enough to be concerning. Maintenance records that had been falsified. Crew members who'd been certified without proper training. Safety protocols that existed on paper but weren't being followed. They fired 11 more people. They promoted 15 people to replace them, all from within, all thoroughly vetted, all committed to the new culture Marcus was building. The Quantum Industries merger went through. The press conference became partly about the business deal, partly about Chantech's commitment to equity and inclusion. We're not perfect, Marcus told the assembled reporters. No company is. But we're committed to doing the work. Real work. Not diversity theater. Not checking boxes. Actually examining our systems, our assumptions, our blind spots. Because here's what I learned at 30,000 feet. It's easy to be inclusive when everyone looks the part. The real test is what happens when someone doesn't look like what you expect. When they don't fit your assumptions about who belongs in first class or the boardroom or the CEO's chair. That's when your true values show. The video went viral. 12 million views in 24 hours. 200 companies reached out asking for consulting on their own diversity programs. Marcus turned them all down. We're still figuring it out ourselves, he said. Come back in a year and ask me if we're worth learning from. 6 months later, Marcus was boarding a commercial flight, JetBlue, seat 17C, because sometimes he just liked to travel like a normal person. A flight attendant greeted him at the door. Young guy, enthusiastic smile, genuine warmth. Welcome aboard. You're in 17C. Perfect. Can I help with your bag? I've got it, thank you. Great. Let me know if you need anything. The flight attendant moved to greet the next passenger. Simple, professional, respectful. Marcus found his seat between a college student and a businessman. The businessman glanced at him, did a double take, opened his mouth like he might say something, then decided against it. The flight took off without incident. Halfway through, Marcus got up to use the restroom. As he waited in line, a woman behind him gasped, "Oh my God, you're Marcus Chen." He turned, smiled. "Guilty. I wanted to say thank you for what you did. I'm a flight attendant for Delta, and after your story came out, our whole company did a culture review. They found stuff, fixed stuff. Things are better now. So thank you." "You're welcome. But also, you're welcome to each other. Passengers and crew. That respect goes both ways. I know. I needed you to know it mattered. What you did. It mattered." She went back to her seat. Marcus used the restroom, returned to 17C, and pulled out his laptop. The Chen Tech Quantum merger was exceeding projections. The diversity initiatives were showing real results, not just in hiring numbers, but in retention, innovation, employee satisfaction. They'd been named one of Fortune's best places to work. His mom had been promoted to president of operations, a title she'd earned 10 times over. Nicole Winters had paid her settlement and moved to another state. She'd gotten a job at a hotel. Not in service, in accounting. Quiet work. Away from the public. She'd sent Marcus one email. "I'm sorry. I'm trying to be better. I'm teaching my daughter that everyone deserves respect. Thank you for giving me the chance to learn that." He'd never responded. "Some lessons you have to learn on your own." Gerald Hutchinson had filed wrongful termination suits against Chen Tech. All had been dismissed. He'd given 3 more interviews insisting he'd done nothing wrong. The last one had been to a podcast with 47 subscribers. He'd faded into obscurity, another cautionary tale about refusing to evolve. The businessman next to Marcus finally spoke. Do you mind if I ask you something?" "Sure. That thing on the plane. Did it change how you see people?" Marcus considered this. "No. It confirmed what I already knew. That people make assumptions. That those assumptions hurt. And that the only way to fight them is to keep showing up, keep excelling, keep proving that their assumptions say everything about them and nothing about me. That must be exhausting." "It is," Marcus admitted. "Every single day. But you know what's more exhausting? Living in a world where nobody challenges those assumptions. Where people like Nicole Winters get to keep their jobs and their prejudices. Where executives like Gerald Hutchinson get to build systems that reinforce inequality. That's more exhausting. So I'll keep doing this. Because somebody has to." The businessman nodded slowly. Extended his hand. "I'm Greg. I'm a VP at a tech company. Much smaller than yours. We just hired a new COO. Young black woman, incredibly talented. One of our board members asked me privately if she was a diversity hire. I didn't know what to say." "What did you want to say?" "I wanted to say, does it matter? She's brilliant. She's the best person for the job. Why does he need to qualify it?" "So why didn't you say that?" Greg looked uncomfortable. "I guess I didn't want to make waves. He's a major investor. I didn't want him thinking I was too woke or whatever." Marcus closed his laptop. Looked directly at Greg. "Here's what I learned at 30,000 feet. Silence is permission. When you don't challenge the question, you validate the assumption. Next time that board member asks you something like that, you say, 'She's a brilliant hire.' Full stop. If you have concerns about her qualifications, I'm happy to review them with you. But I'm not going to participate in questioning someone's merit based on their demographics. We're better than that. And if we're not, we need to be. That's what you say. And if he pulls his investment, then he was always going to pull his investment the first time your COO made a decision he disagreed with. You'd just be accelerating the inevitable. But more likely, he'll respect you for drawing the line. People like that, they're used to getting away with it because nobody calls them on it. Be the person who calls them on it." Greg sat back. "You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's necessary. There's a difference." The plane landed. Passengers unbuckled. The usual chaos of deplaning began. As Marcus stood to grab his bag from the overhead bin, The flight attendant from earlier appeared. "Mr. Chen? The captain wanted me to give you this." He handed over a business card. Marcus looked at it. The captain's name, number, and a handwritten note. "Thank you for making the industry better. We've got work to do, but people like you remind us why it matters." Marcus pocketed the card, nodded his thanks. He walked off the plane into JFK Airport, just another traveler in a sea of travelers, nobody giving him a second glance. And that was fine. Because the real power wasn't in being recognized. It was in knowing that somewhere, a 7-year-old girl might grow up in a world slightly less quick to judge. Where a young professional might board a plane without wondering if they'd be treated differently. Where assumptions might still exist, but consequences existed too. The work wasn't done. The work would never be done. But it was further along than it had been 6 months ago. And tomorrow, he'd push it a little further still. That's what you do when you're underestimated. When people assume you don't belong. You keep showing up. You keep excelling. You keep building. And when someone slaps you at 30,000 feet, you ground the fleet, fire the enablers, fix the systems, and make sure it never happens again. Not because you're playing the victim. Because you're exercising power. The kind of power that comes from actually earning your seat at the table. The kind of power that changes everything. Sometimes the most important lessons are taught at 35,000 feet. Sometimes justice comes with a price, and you pay it anyway. And sometimes the person you underestimate is exactly the person who'll change your world forever. Remember, respect isn't about recognition. It's about character. And character shows up most clearly when nobody important is watching. Or when everyone important is.